All right, we're going to get rolling here because the clock has started. So welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining our session of Increase the Impact of Salesforce and Einstein with IBM Watson and Cloud Integration. My name is Mark Name. I'm the Chief Architect of the IBM Watson Embed and Strategic Partnerships Organization, and I have my colleague.
Hey, everyone. I'm Andy Groman. I lead our technical sales organization for hybrid cloud worldwide. Happy to be here with you today.
All right, so we're going to talk about some really, really cool stuff, so strap on. We're going to do a lot of hands-on stuff. We're going to talk a lot of demystification of things like Watson and Einstein, a lot of really, really cool things around integration as well. So just your standard disclaimer there. So here's some of the things we're going to be talking about just to give you context over these next 40 minutes. So briefly talk a little bit about the IBM Salesforce partnership, which some of you guys may have heard about that buzz in this conference already and previously. We're going to talk about our Watson Salesforce SDK, what that is, what that does. I'll have a little demo to understand how easy it is to connect to Watson from Salesforce. We're going to talk about Watson and Einstein in concert, how they work together, use cases that we have built, and other use cases as well. And then we're going to switch over a little bit, change gears, and talk about more the integration side of how we can integrate things like Watson, like Salesforce, like DB2, and many, many other systems together. Andy's going to show you how quick and easy that is and dive into the details there.
That's right.
So first thing about the IBM Salesforce partnership, so it was first announced early last year. A lot of people have been asking us a lot of things like, hey, what does the partnership mean? What are some of the things you guys have done? What are some of the activities that you guys are doing? So we're really, really excited about this. Some of the main angles we're looking and we have been doing and continue to do and improve on with the partnership is do things like bring the best of IBM and Salesforce together. So that's Watson and Einstein. That's integration. How can we embed our stuff, right, our technology into the different clouds of Salesforce and other great things Salesforce has on the horizon now with some of the announcements. So the relationship and the partnership means a lot of things. It's not just one thing, and we're going to talk about that right now to help give everyone some context. So first, I just want to start off talking a little bit about IBM Cloud, just to set context. A lot of times we do these talks, and I kind of just assume everybody knows IBM and everybody knows Watson. Certainly, everybody's heard of those things, but a lot of times people haven't had any hands-on or haven't any experience with these things. So I'm kind of taking a step back here and want to make sure everyone has that context. So this is our IBM Cloud platform. So it's many, many things, right? We've got business applications that we create, business solutions that run on our cloud, that use the services and technologies on our cloud. We've got that whole purple section, which is our Watson APIs, our Watson platform, our AI platform, which I'm going to talk about in depth here today. We have our whole Watson data section. We have a data science experience and a Watson Studio. We've got runtime and orchestration layers. We've got integration layers. You can deploy, run your apps on our cloud. We have a whole security aspect to our cloud as well. It's a very, very large space. For anyone who hasn't gone out to IBM Cloud, I would check it out. There's a lot of different things you can do. But today, again, we're going to focus on the integration and the Watson piece to help show you guys some stuff. So Watson, everyone calls Watson like it's a thing, which it is, but it's really a platform. So our platform is a host of APIs. It's a set of APIs for a bunch of different services. So this is what it looks like today. We've evolved from the old Jeopardy solution that we won in 2011 into this platform that you see today. So there are many, many different aspects to our platform, like speech-to-text, visual recognition, conversational solutions like Watson Assistant. We have a whole new aspect of it for deep learning, so deep learning as a service with Watson Studio and Watson Machine Learning for those data scientists and business analysts and other folks. We kind of made a one-stop shop for all different roles. We have our Watson Discovery service, so ingesting documents and pulling out insights. We're going to talk about that service in just a little bit. This is what the platform looks like today, and I'm going to show you that. So the first thing I want to dive in before I show you the cloud is our Watson Salesforce SDK. So what exactly is this? We deployed this. We went live with it back in November at Dreamforce is when we announced it. It currently supports all 10 of our Watson services that are API accessible, so a lot of the services I just mentioned. And what this is a tool for developers to use that helps you integrate Watson into your Salesforce apps more quickly and easily. This specific SDK asset is for people using an Apex writing an Apex code, but we have SDKs for all the major programming languages, so Java, Node, Python, etc. You can check it out in our Watson Developer Cloud. I have the URL here for the Salesforce SDK at the bottom. If you just go to the Watson Developer Cloud extension, you will see all of our different SDKs that are up there. So we wanted to build this to sort of help developers get Watson integrated more quickly and easily. We provide you everything with the SDK. We provide you all the classes out of the box for all the services, those 10 services, all the APIs. We built the SDK off of every single API we provide. We provide to you end-to-end functional examples. So if you're not sure how to get started, we show you exactly how to get started. We give you a specific syntax example of how to use it. We explain every parameter and every possible parameter you can pass to the service in our SDK, and I'm going to show you that. So what I'm going to do right now is actually just jump right into first, the IBM Cloud. So a question a lot of people, and back to my earlier point, is a lot of people would say, how do I get started, right, with IBM Cloud, whether it's Watson or integration, what do I do? So we have our IBM Cloud right here, which is formerly called Bluemix, if you guys have heard Bluemix. This is the cloud interface. So the first thing I'm going to show you here is the integration section. So what my colleague Andy is going to review and go over. He's going to take you through an end-to-end flow using App Connect. But this is the area you would go to when you want to see all of our cloud integration offerings. And once this dial stops spinning here, we will see what those offerings are. All right, there we go. So API Connect, App Connect, MQ, Information Server, and Andy's going to dive into this in just a few moments. For the Watson platform we just talked about, so I'm just going to go to this Watson section of IBM Cloud, and here they are, right? So that kind of node-looking diagram you saw earlier of all the different blue circles and the services, these are all of our Watson services. So you would come here, it's free to sign up, takes like 30 seconds to create an account, free account. You just log right in. We have light or free versions to a lot of our services. So how do I get started? So here's my Watson Assistant offering, formerly called Watson Conversation. That's our chatbot interface, a conversational solution. It takes seconds to deploy. You literally just select the service that you want, give it a name up here. I'll just call this Trailhead. And select which space you want to deploy it to. Here are our different offerings. We have the free version, the light, standard, and premium. Pretty consistent for all our services with those types of offerings. You literally click on create, and probably within like 10 seconds, the service is up and running and consumable. And there we go. I said 10 seconds. It was more like 3 seconds. So here it is, right? I can launch the tool right from here and jump right into my Watson Assistant service and start actually building out dialogue, modeling intents and such. So here I am. Here's my workspace. We provide you a workspace right out of the box for this specific offering. And here we go. I'm in Watson Conversation. That took me, end to end, maybe 15 seconds to do it. Simple as that. And we're going to come back to this in just a second, this Watson Assistant service. What I'm going to do now, actually, is pop over to the SDK. So for those of you who are developers or admins as well, be familiar. I'm in my Salesforce environment right now. So this is the developer console. And right now what I'm going to do is actually show you how quick and easy it is to using our SDK to connect to Watson from Salesforce. Again, this level of simplicity is consistent with all of the programming languages that we have SDKs for. The specific example is an Apex in Salesforce's case. So we've taken hundreds of thousands of lines of code that you guys would legitimately have to write to do this, and we truncated it to, in this case, 5 lines of code or 5 statements, 5 or 6. So here's the SDK pattern you're going to see. So first up here, I am creating an instance of my IBM Assistant object. IBM Assistant is the name of the service in this case. What this does is, behind the scenes as well, you would set up your credentials. So you'd get your service credentials for whatever Watson service you're using. You would plug that into the named credentials aspect of Salesforce. This way you don't have to worry about passing your creds back and forth in your API calls. In this case, keeps it nice and clean. Also shields the service credentials from the developers who may not need to know those creds, right? We just need to know what service we need to hit. Admins can handle that. Here we have our input builder pattern, and what this is here is handling what is the text you're actually going to be sending to the conversation services. So picture this, guys, right? It's a conversational solution. It's a chat bot. I have a use case that I'm chatting with someone because I need help. Maybe it's customer service or something like that, right? From the application perspective, your main task is going to be managing and maintaining the back and forth of that conversation. That's 90% of what you'll be doing from an application perspective. So what I'm doing here is I'm just taking a simple input to my conversational solution and saying hello. That's my first section. This next section here is my options builder pattern, and what this does is specify which workspace within my conversational solution I want to hit. So you can have multiple different workspaces. One might be an insurance industry based, one might be a telco industry based. You can divide that up by workspaces. So that's what this is doing, specifying the workspace, specifying the input that I previously built. And there are other parameters you can pass as well. These are the major ones, but in our SDK, we document what all those options are. Here, I'm just creating an instance of my message response object and hitting the SDK right here with my message API call, passing in all the options I just specified. And all I'm doing here is getting a return. I'm saying, give me the output, give me the text. The response you get from Watson Assistant will be an array of responses based on the intent confidence. You might get back 5 responses, for example. In this case, we only care about the top response, right? The most confident one. So I'm just taking the top response in the array. So that's pretty much it. I'm just posting out the response. So let's give this a shot, and let's run this. So I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to execute the highlighted. So right now, this is packaging this up, sending it over to my Watson Assistant service, and boom, here's the response. How many of you guys are familiar with the developer console in Salesforce? Okay, so, all right, I'm speaking your language then. It's not always the case. So, all right, I'm just going to my debug only trace, and there it is, right? I said hello. The response from Watson was, hi, it looks like it's a nice drive today. What would you like me to do? And that's really it, right? Within seconds, I was able to do that. I literally copy-paste that out of the SDK that we provided. Only thing I added was the message I wanted to send and my workspace specified. It's literally that easy. I'm going to show you another example, though. That's a simple example. I want to take this to another sort of build on this a little bit. So one of the other things you can do using the SDK is, I talked about other parameters, other things you can retrieve, other things you can pass. And one of the common ones people want to know is confidence, right? So for example, I may not want to return a response to the user if I'm not at least 60 or 70% confident. You can set that threshold. But for you to do that and allow to set that threshold, you have to be able to grab the confidence from the response. So right here, all I'm doing is adding in a couple lines, right? 2 more lines of code, 2 statements, instantiating the variable confidence, and I'm getting that from my response, and it's just a get confidence parameter that comes out of that raw JSON response, which, by the way, is another huge benefit of the SDK. Part of what we do is we take that raw response and we format it for you into an object, so you don't have to worry about doing that. So I'm just going to run this again, those extra 2 lines, and now what we should see is a response with a confidence threshold as well. And there it is. So in this case, this very rare case, I'm 100% accurate, which is always a good thing, but that's not always going to be the case, right? You're going to be 60, 70, 80, 90, could be anything. So that's how you would call Watson Conversation Service and get confidence. One more thing to take this to the next level to show you the possibilities of what you can actually do. I have right here, using our SDK, I'm going to call our Watson Assistant service again. I am going to send over 2 messages. So I'm going to create an array of messages. I'm going to say hello. Once I get a response from Watson, I'm going to say, what should my tire pressure be? Now, in my case here, I don't have the answer in my conversation service, in my assistant service. Sorry, I got to get used to saying it. We just changed the name last week. In my assistant service, I don't have the answer. Or maybe if it's a low threshold, I don't want to answer if it's less than 50%. What do I do? What I'm going to show you here is how you can redirect that to get an answer from somewhere else. So in my case here, what I'm doing is I'm going to call our Watson Discovery service if and only if I specify in conversation either a low confidence threshold or maybe it's a direct specification. Whenever I get this type of intent, send that out to my Discovery service because I don't know the answer. So what I'm doing up here is explicitly defining the Discovery object that we're going to be using. And you can see here I put set endpoint and username and password. So this is an option you can do. I talked about setting your name credentials in Salesforce, on the Salesforce side. If you don't do that, you can optionally pass this back and forth every time. I don't recommend it. It's kind of a pain, and it's not the most secure thing you could do. I would stick to the first option, but I wanted to show it to you guys so you know it's there. So here we are again with the assistant. We just saw this, so we know what this is, right? I'm formatting the message. This message is based on the array I created above, and here's the message options pattern. I'm going to this workspace. I am sending this input, and now we see a new one here. I want to maintain context. When I send a question, I get an answer. I want to maintain the context of that conversation and what was said, so when the next response, there's continuity and there's state management. Maintaining context, that's the parameter, and that's how easy it is to do that. All right, and down here, what I'm doing is I am calling the Watson Discovery Service. So I'm specifying what's called an environment ID. That's just a Watson Discovery terminology, and my collection ID. And here I'm just saying I want to send a natural language query, which in this case is going to be the question of what should my tire pressure be. So a couple more lines. We're probably like 5 or 6 more lines of code here, but I'm doing a lot in this one thing. And here I want to print out my message, and I want to print out the reply, and I want to maintain context. So let's see. Let's run this guy and see what we get. My expectation is we will get the question, response. Oh. Yep, there we go. There we go. All right, let's execute this. Opening up the log, and boom. So now what this is doing, as you can see here, said hello. Watson came back and said, hi, it looks like a nice drive. What do you want me to do? I asked, what should my tire pressure be? Watson does not have that answer, so this sends it out to Discovery. Right here is actually an answer coming from the Discovery Service. Discovery Service is a collection of documents you ingest. Car manuals, knowledge base articles, social data, everything and anything can be ingested into our Watson Discovery Service. So this is actually coming. So I've just interacted with 2 services pretty quickly and easily. And the more you play with this, you'll pick this up pretty quick. Our SDK is consistent, again, across all services. So if you work with one, you very easily be able to work with others. All right. So I'm going to stop there for a sec and just flip back to a couple of things. I promised Andy I wouldn't go over my time, so I got 2 minutes here. I want to talk about some use cases. People say, how do Watson and Einstein work together? Where's the overlap? How do they work? What's powering what? There's been a lot of questions. We get this every time at every conference. So I want to talk about some real use cases now. And the first one I want to talk about is this use case called next best action. This is Watson, Einstein working in concert. So Einstein's really good at CRM data, looking at stuff inside CRM. Now with the big announcement of the integration cloud, right, getting other external data that's structured as well. But Watson's specialty is everything and everything else. So structured, non-structured, Salesforce, non-Salesforce data. And we've been doing that for a long time, which is why Salesforce wanted to partner with us. In this case, what's happening is, and this is something we already built out. I can actually show you this live here. Oops, wrong one. There we go. So what I actually have here is a request came into Service Cloud. I'm a Service Cloud agent. I come in the morning. I look in my queue. I've got a list of cases. I look through those cases. I have to read the description, understand what's going on, what the intent is, what do I need to do, go do it, fix it, write a response, send it to the customer, and move on from there, right? What we've done is automated a lot of that. This is an asset that IBM has created already called Next Best Action. And if you're interested in this, by the way, come see myself or my colleague Slade here sitting in the front row looking snazzy with that suit if you guys are interested in more about this. What this does is when the case comes in, automatically gets analyzed by Watson. Watson looks at in the description in this case and other things. But the description in this case says, I'm so upset and considering to change companies. I've been trying to add Tracy to my car policy. This is totally ridiculous. Please add Tracy to my policy. Her social security number is this. Birthday is March 28, 1995. So Watson tries to look at that and does multiple things. One, understands what is the person asking about. So in this case, it's an add policy action. What I need to do as an agent is add Tracy to the policy. So I've automated that part. I have an email ready to go to respond to the customer saying, hi, Mr. Customer. In this case, I say, sorry for the inconvenience. I've gone ahead and added Tracy to your policy. Let me know if you need something else. That's all automated. But why am I saying sorry? How do I know to be sorry? Because we're also using Watson's tone analyzer service to understand the tone of their description. And in this case, we have an angry alert that is here that basically alerts me that this person is upset. This could trigger an escalation or do something else. So I'm going to actually have to stop there because I'm right over my time. I promised Andy. So if anyone's interested in asking more questions about this type of stuff, I have more use cases. We will stick around after as well. So with that being said, I will turn it over to Andy.
Thanks, Mark. And if I have any extra time, I'll give it back to you.
All right.
All right. So we're just going to extend that conversation a little bit and start talking about our integration platform in particular. So we were pretty excited to announce last week the launch of the cloud integration platform from IBM. Last week was our big Think conference in Las Vegas. And what the launch of the cloud integration platform means is we are bringing together all of the integration solutions available from IBM into a single platform. And so whether that's API lifecycle management, right, building, managing, securing APIs, publishing those, making them available to developers through the developer portal, through the API lifecycle aspect, secure access through some of our secure gateway technology, application integration, this is what I'll focus on today, the components in there called App Connect that allow you to quickly and easily integrate SaaS and on-premise properties. Our messaging infrastructure, obviously MQ, the hands down dominant leader in the industry for once and only once reliable message delivery. Data integration aspects, and even high-speed file transfer. So this was an acquisition IBM had 4 or 5 years ago called Aspera that brings some unique high-speed transfer capabilities. We see it a lot in the media and entertainment space where there's huge videos they need to move around, but it's growing out into other industries as well. So all of those are now available in a single, simple, fast, and secure integrated platform, all available on the IBM Cloud, as well as running on-premise as well, right? So that's a big philosophy of IBM, focus on hybrid cloud, multi-cloud strategy, whether you want to run it on our cloud, on somebody else's cloud, AWS, Azure, on-premise, we support all of those modes with this integrated platform. So App Connect in particular, so it's really, this is built from the ground up, launched a couple of years ago to provide simple, really radically simple and intuitive tooling for advanced integration scenarios. So we have a collection of connectors available, on the order of 80 plus, to integrate with SaaS properties, on-premise properties, and through a really simple flow dialogue, be able to bring those different endpoints together to create dynamic integrations. And what I'll do here today is show you a demo. We've been having the lab of the same demo available out in our booth right across the hall here. So if you want to do hands-on of this exact demo, feel free to stop by our booth after the session. So real simple tooling. It's winning all sorts of prestigious awards in the industry. The designers are heavily involved in really every single decision of which way an arrow points throughout the UI. So I'm excited to show it to you here in a minute. In addition to being able to build these kind of request response flows, we also have the ability to build APIs. So through the same simple drag and drop tooling you'll see here, you can mash up APIs and very quickly and easily create new integrated APIs that you want to expose that you could then take and govern through our API Connect tooling, provide that lifecycle management around APIs. Right? Okay, so with that, let's jump into the demonstration itself. So real simple scenario here. The concept is I'm at a trade show, and I've collected a bunch of leads of people walking by the booth, but they've all been inserted into a third-party database. I want to take that data, the record of leads that I've received, and I want to load them into Salesforce. Right, so I'm going to create a campaign in Salesforce, and when that campaign is created, I'm going to automatically pull in all of those records from this external database. But while I do that, I also want to augment it with some intelligence from Watson. Right, so I want to take the description, the text that was entered when I captured the lead of what they were doing and what they stopped by and what questions they were asking. I'm going to feed that through Watson's natural language classifier, and Watson is going to tell me whether that lead is hot, warm, or cold. Right, so while Mark showed you some of the hands-on coding aspect of integrating Watson with SDKs, this will show you an aspect of how I can do that integration with clicks, not code. Right? Okay, so let's jump over to App Connect and get started. All right. So like we said, so from IBM Cloud here, we've got this integrated integration platform. From here, I can launch App Connect and get into that tooling to start building our flows. So here you see it. I've got a couple of flows already out here for some previous demos that I had run. What I'm going to do today is create a new event-driven flow. From the same UI, I could create that API I described. And it looks very similar. It's just, the only difference is kind of the entry point, right? When I create an API, I'm going to define a model, and requests will come into me. In this case, the event-driven flow is it's going to monitor some system A for something happening, and then take actions in system B, C, and D down the line. Okay, so the first thing I want to do when I create this flow here, we'll just give it a little name. The first thing I want to do here is define the action or the event that will trigger this flow. So you can see a series of connectors we have available, and Mark's, your scroll is backwards from mine, so I'm going to be going opposite the whole time.
I knew that's going to throw you off. I knew you were going to say that too.
It's okay. So we're going to monitor Salesforce for the creation of a campaign. So when a campaign is created in Salesforce, that's going to kick off this flow. Behind the scenes, it actually creates a push topic in Salesforce, so it's happening in real time. This isn't polling. We create a push topic specific to this flow, and we subscribe to that. And if you stop the flow, it tears down that push topic, keeps it all in sync pretty quickly. I've already pre-connected all of my account objects in here just to keep the demo fast and simple. But connecting it to your Salesforce org is as simple as an OAuth connection to Salesforce. Similarly with the database that I'm going to connect to and the Watson conversation service or the Watson classifier service that I've configured, all of those accounts I've just set up ahead of time. Okay, so when a new campaign comes in, I'm now going to want to go off to that database, retrieve those records, and iterate through those records. There's actually two different ways we can do this in App Connect. So one is a simple for each loop, and that's what I'll demonstrate today. So I'm going to go off and retrieve the database records and then just loop through them. But I want to show this new feature that we released last week called this batch process. So the batch process allows me to launch an asynchronous process that can scale to handle millions of records. Right, so you can see through the UI here, it kind of implies that this flow will continue along while the batch process runs asynchronously. Right, so you can get a response back to the user, say, hey, I've invoked your batch process. I'll let you know when the 10 million records are done processing. Really cool, highly scalable feature we're really, really proud of. But today I'm just going to do the for each loop. So the first thing I want to do is retrieve the database records. So we'll just filter this list on DB2. I have an instance of DB2 running on IBM Cloud. I click Show More. It goes off and inspects the tables that I have available in this database instance. And I'm going to retrieve the lead records. Right? So the leads table is what has the data. Now I can add where clause criteria if I need to filter the records that I care about. In this case, I'm just going to retrieve all the records, again, just keeping the demo simple. And I'm going to go ahead and fetch 1,000 records or up to 1,000 records out of this database instance. Again, that batch process can handle millions of records, so highly scalable. The next step is I'm going to create that for each. So I come over to my toolbox and I choose the for each action, and this will create kind of an iterative experience. And now once I create that for each, I have to tell it what I'm going to loop on. So I can click on this little helper over here, and it gives me access to all of the actions that I've already added earlier in my flow. Right? So I can see over here on the left, I want to choose the array of leads, and that's what I'm going to be looping through, the data that came back from the database. And now I have the option if I want to process them all sequentially. Oops, what did I do? I have the option of processing them each sequentially, or I can actually launch it asynchronous or in parallel. And so that's what the for each action is going to do. In this case, just makes it run a little bit faster. It's kind of a performance improvement. I'm not sure what happened there. Let's just do this again. For each. All right, we will choose the database array of leads, and then I'm going to tell it to process items in parallel. So it'll actually fork off a bunch of parallel processing. Behind the scenes, we are, I see what I did. I keep scrolling that to the left. Sorry about that. Okay. Behind the scenes, we actually use a Kafka engine to do all the messaging between flows, and so that allows us to really scale it very, very high. We're using the IBM's Message Hub, which is our Kafka-based implementation running on IBM Cloud. Okay, so the first thing I want to do as I iterate through these leads is I'm going to go ahead and call Watson. So I'll scroll down here to the IBM Watson natural language classifier service, and I'm going to ask it to classify the text. And so I'll just choose the lead classifier instance. So similar to what Mark showed you earlier, we went out to Watson and we invoked one of these services, and we configured the services for kind of keywords that it would recognize in description in order to be able to do the classification on hot, warm, or cold. So now I'm just accessing that service that I've configured and the training that I've given to Watson. And now I'm going to choose the text that I want to pass in. So I'm going to use the lead text from the for each node here. So this is the record that came off of the database. Okay, so when that finishes classifying, let's see if I can scroll right here without, without going back. The next step is I'm going to create the lead in Salesforce, right? So come down to my Salesforce connector, and I'll choose the object that I want to create. In this case, I want to create a lead. Right? So this goes off and actually queries my instance of Salesforce, gets the any sort of customization that I've done on my objects to bring in my fields. And now I need to start populating the fields from the database instance. So I can come in here and I can start clicking on them individually, or I can actually use this type ahead feature where it starts filtering the list for me. So it's pretty quick and easy to get through a large number of fields as I map the data over from, in this case, a database record into the lead that we're creating in Salesforce. So we'll just run through these real quick. Let's choose region. We'll use the postal code. We'll use the country. We will use the phone number. And we'll pass in the lead text. So this is the text that we actually sent to Watson to interpret for us, but we'll put it on the lead itself so we can kind of compare notes when we're done. We'll just choose the other for the lead source. The status is open, and the rating is the important part. So the rating here, I'm actually not going to choose hot, warm, or cold. I'm going to use the result that came back from Watson. So I can scroll down to see the result that came back from the language classifier, and the result is in this field called top class. So I'll just populate top class in there for that lead. And then the final step here is I would just want to create what's called a campaign member, which will link this lead ID to the campaign ID, so that'll just show up for me real quick. So I'll come down here to the Salesforce object again. And it's not one of the default objects, so I click Show More to get my full object model for my Salesforce instance. And I'll choose campaign member, create campaign member. And then I'm just going to pull the campaign ID that came in off of the campaign that launched the flow, right? So new campaign, take the campaign ID, and then take the lead ID of the lead I just created, right? So we just created that the previous step. You see it returns to me the ID, so I can use that here. So that's it. So now I can click exit and switch on, and this will turn on the flow. Again, this will go behind the scenes, connect into Salesforce, create that push topic, set up the subscription so that in real time, when campaigns are created in Salesforce, this flow will get kicked off. Okay, so let's jump over to Salesforce and see if I didn't screw anything up. We'll go campaigns, we'll create a new campaign, and we'll just call it Live DX Demo, and save. All right, so this pulls it up automatically for me. So if I click on campaign members, depending on how quick I was, it'll probably be empty to start. Oh, nope, see, it's already pulling some in. So I can refresh it, and there we go. So just like that, that flow kicked off automatically. I can come over here. I can see I got a little green checkbox that it ran successfully a few seconds ago. But now I can click on these individual leads. I always choose Pat Summerall because I think that's an awesome name. And if I look at his details, I'll see his rating was cold. Okay, well, why was his rating cold? Well, he stopped by for a short chat and he had no real interest. Right? So Watson interpreted that as not a good lead, so we shouldn't waste our time there. If I go back, we can do like Eugenia Lukic, and what did she say? So her rating is hot, and she came back twice as strong interest in the 5000 series generator. So you can see, based on that text, we did that Watson interpretation, and through that simple drag and drop tooling, hopefully you saw that it was real easy to make these advanced integration flows. We have connectors for 100, or what did I say, 85, on the order of 85 properties today. We're rapidly expanding that, adding new connectors every week. So if you haven't looked at it, go to ibm.com/integration. You can get started with this stuff today. So with that, I can jump back over to this and just describe a few more capabilities. So what we saw today was that event action flow, right? So event-driven, recognizing events happening in one system and taking actions in other systems downstream, whether those are on-premise or off-premise. But we really wanted to focus on several key use cases for using our integration tooling. So I mentioned you can build these APIs. So that same flow editor that I showed you just there, the only difference would be there's no event that you're monitoring for that first plus sign. It's just an inbound request model, right? So I have a JSON message that's coming in, but all those fields are available to me to use downstream. We've done some really, really dynamic stuff. At Dreamforce this year, we did a demo for chatbot, so using this tool and integrating with the Watson Conversation Service, and basically using Salesforce Live Message to do the interaction over SMS. And every time Salesforce got a message back, it would feed it into App Connect to talk to Watson Conversation to figure out, or Watson Assistant, excuse me, to figure out what that next response would be. And based on that next response, could actually take other actions, like we would create the order in SAP in the back end, right? And we would do other integration with other back end systems to, depending on how that order goes. I think the scenario was, we were selling drugs to a pharmaceutical agent, right? Or to a pharmacist. And so he could order these drugs and say, yeah, I'll take your special discount, and I want 100, and charge my credit card, and it would go through that whole conversation, and then integrate all of these other back-end tools. And it was all done via the APIs that we have. We're also focusing on this data copy and data synchronization. So that was really the batch stuff that I just showed you, so that we can do copying large amounts of data from external sources into Salesforce, keeping those things in sync, synchronized. And then, of course, the ability to enrich that data. You saw some of that as well today. So these are the key use cases we're focusing on from an App Connect perspective. And those are the key messages I wanted to share today. We've got about 3 minutes left. If you want to share anything else, Mark?
Cool. Yeah, I mean, we can take some questions if someone had.
Yeah,
that was
if
great.
anybody's got any questions. Yeah. Sure. Managed and packaged objects? Yes. Yes. Yeah, so we go out and do that inspection based on your connection to your physical org, and you can have multiple accounts, connected, so you can be choosing which Salesforce thing to connect to, and it's pulling all that data in. Yep. Any other questions? Yes. Yep. Can you connect to multiple orgs? Yes. Yes. A question about, I'm sorry? Yeah. So how did Watson natural language classifier classify the text? So we did some training, right? We basically gave it, these keywords indicate it's hot, these keywords indicate it's warm, these keywords indicate it's cold, right? But the value that Watson brings is it's natural language. So it understands semantics and context and does some interpretation for you. So you don't have to do exact keyword match as we used to do, right? It has to be this one equals that, and if it's off by a letter or a capital T instead, right, then it wouldn't match, right? But Watson gives you the kind of that,
Yeah. So you just feed it some examples, and it learns based on that training data. So
Yeah.
you give it some examples, start with however many examples you have. If you have 10, 20, 30, feed that in, train a model, test it. Do it kind of more agile and iteratively. If you say, oh, we're doing really good at the, what were your three weights?
Hot, warm, and cold.
Hot, warm, cold. Like we're getting, hot is hitting all the time, but cold is just not doing very well. You probably need more sample data. Feed it some more data, retrain. It's really easy to use. It's the trick is the quality of the data you use to feed it. So, good question.
Any other questions? Yes. I can't hear over these fans. I'm sorry. You want to grab the mic right here?
Yeah, so any number of minimum samples that it should do, like examples for language engine?
Examples for what?
Examples as in like hot, medium, cold, like hot, warm, and cold, right? So is there how much data do you?
Oh, how many examples did we load, Mike, to train?
About like 15 different samples for each, and that was just quick. I mean, I could have done as many
Yeah.
to further, give it clarity in what direction it should be. Because what it returns is basically a weight saying, I think it's this, and what I do is I take the top class, which is Watson returns is the one it most likely it thinks it is. And but if you want to do more in-depth analysis on that, based on a certain weight, you can do that too. I just for this demo, I just one. I thought.
And are there any out-of-the-box use cases like already there in the engine?
Yeah, so for example, one of the things we have available in App Connect is a series of templates, right? So those templates are basically pre-built flows for industry-specific scenarios where you might want to include Watson to do this enrichment or Watson to do that translation or this tone analysis or what have you. Yeah, so there are some pre-built examples out there. And similarly on the Watson side.
Right. We do have, for like Watson Assistant, we also have an intent classification engine there. It comes with a lot of out-of-the-box examples, so different industry examples. So you can always leverage those to get you started. But back to the training point, I mean, it depends on what you're training on and how many different things you're training on. You can get it done with as little as 5 utterances. Some people may need 50. Everyone asks, like, what's the magic number? There really is no magic number. Start, what you got and see how it, 5, 10, 15. I've seen some need 50. Some need more, yeah. But it's,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you be able to use something like App Connect to drive feedback even? So like if the rep then went in and said, no, that's not cold, that's a medium, and then have an event that would then feed that original text back in as a training element, add it to the training set?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Watson has APIs for the management side as well as the consumption side, so we could use App Connect to pull that from Salesforce and drive additional learning back into Watson. That's a great idea.
You can. It's like active learning. It's sort of more of an automated process of training. You certainly can.
Hi. This solution is available only in English or is available in Portuguese, for example?
Which solution?
Or the natural language processing.
So there's, let me check the language support for you, actually. That's a great question. A lot of our services are multiple languages, and Portuguese is one of the popular ones. Let's pull that up while we're talking here. Have a look at it. All right. So natural language classifier. And I don't have the languages here. I can find out for you. Give you a couple of seconds, I can pull that up.
No problem. How about
Yeah, that's a quicker way to get there. Search for language support. I know with our assistant service, we do support quite a few languages. Whoops. Language. Let's see. Support. That's probably not the best word. Yeah, I'll find it for you to get you that list. You said Portuguese, right? Oh, whoa.
That's of the doc, right?
That might be the doc. Yeah, I think that's the documentation. Oh, that's cool. At least you can read it all in Portuguese now. That's not exactly what you were looking for, but I will pull that up. I'll pull that up now. Give me a couple of seconds.
No why this question?
Yes, another question.
Another one is that it's not very easy to explain to our customers that Einstein can work together with Watson.
Yeah.
If I understand well, in this use case, we can have Einstein, for example, in customer services for recommending the agents to set the field, the recommendation as the best way to close the case, and etc.
Yeah.
And we have Watson to receive information in real time about that conversation, for example,
Yeah.
and give insight feedback about how is the customer. This is the correct use case?
You
for
can.
the two-
That's an option. You can. Yeah. So with our case, we do with the one we built, we do it all. But there's also an Einstein framework that we can plug into that's being built out for that specific use case, where we can leverage some more of Einstein's internal knowledge. So we give the insights to Einstein. Einstein can provide. It has its own language classification engine under the covers it can use, and then we can kind of merge those together for that. So that's one way. And that's a whole framework they're building. So.
Okay. My last one is, this platform is focused on enterprise companies, or is there solutions for small business as well?
Yeah.
I mean, the
the
pricing.
the cloud. You mean IBM Cloud?
Yeah.
Could be
All
anybody.
sizes.
You could be a personal user.
Yeah.
You're just building an app for fun. So it can scale from small, mid to large, enterprise companies.
With the same processing of Watson?
So that's a good question. So depending on the size of your expected traffic for your app and for your services, there are different levels, right? So you get a certain amount of processing, compute. We have dedicated space. We have a premium plan if you're going to, have higher consumption rates. So there are different tiers that you would be in. So we'd scope it out, depending on how many users you have, how much power you need in your app, stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
So we're about 5 minutes over. If there's other questions, let's hang out in the back and we'll take your questions so the
Yes.
next team can't set up.
For the example of the next best action that you show us in Salesforce, is that available anywhere that you can take a look?
Is there an example of next best action?
Yeah, the Salesforce automation.
Yeah. Do you
Yep,
have
is it
more?
available? Yep, we can talk about that right now, actually. Let me just take this out off.